co-chairs, as soon as Mr. Newberry gives a thumbs up on the YouTube channel, we'll be ready to go. Oh, got it already.
All right. Well, welcome everybody. I think we're all excited to hear these presentations. Feels like this has been somewhat a long time coming, so I'm really interested to see what we hear tonight. So let's go ahead and move forward with the roll call.
Okay. Member Larson.
Here.
Member Corvington.
Here.
Member Collier. Member Jayling. I thought she was here. Okay.
She was.
Member Bowman. Co-chair Caldwell.
Here.
Member Hildreth. Member Alou. Member LeMay. Member Marshall.
Present.
Member Glowski.
Here.
Member Volmer.
I'm here.
Member Becker. Member Webster. Councilmember Ottenberg. Councilmember Dodwell. And co-chair Flasher.
Here. Thanks.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, so it sounds like we will go ahead and skip the approval of minutes as of now. Is that correct?
Yes, Madam Chair, if you don't mind. Oh, Ms. Jelling has just popped on as an attendee. We'll promote her on up. And we're still back at 8 though.
Would you like a motion to change the agenda and put the approval of minutes later in the meeting?
That'd be great, Mr. Marshall, if it's acceptable to the co-chairs.
I'll make that motion.
Does anyone second?
Second.
Okay. Thank you.
All in favor? We got aye.
Aye.
Aye. Aye.
Any opposed? I guess we need to ask just in case someone wants to say, hey, oppose, abstain.
Thank you.
All right. Do we have any public participation?
Madam Chair, I believe the one attendee is the first presenter tonight from Friends of Bellevue. And so I do not see any other attendees at the moment, and we did not receive any written comments for presentation tonight.
So then the next item on the agenda is to go ahead and listen to the presentations. Does it seem like we can move forward with that?
Well, since I believe the representative from Friends of Bellevue is here, I'm going to go ahead and promote her as a panelist, and then we can go ahead and get started with the permission of the co-chairs.
Excellent, thank you.
Unmute. There we are. Can you hear me now? Sorry about the name. I'm at work, so it came up as one of the office emails at my work. So I'm Krista Taves. So I thought there were going to be questions. I didn't realize I was doing a presentation. Is there something specific that you wanted from the presentation besides what I wrote in my report, the survey that I answered? I'd be happy to do that.
Madam Chair, if I may.
Please.
First of all, disclosure. Krista and I know each other. We've been working together on Bellevue Farms, the park site, for a number of years now.
Yes.
And so if I could, I would suggest, Krista, if you could just kind of update them of the success so far of Friends of Bellevue
Sure.
and kind of what you're hoping to do in the future in terms of your strategic planning. I think that'd be great. And
Sure.
you are under a 5-minute clock, so to speak. And then we'll ask questions and hopefully you'll have the answers. If not, I
Sure.
have a standard response. We'll get back to you.
Okay, not a problem. So I'm Krista Taves. I'm the president of Friends of Bellevue, which is a 501c3. Most of our members are from the Sherman community, and we organized at the time that we wanted to work in partnership with Wildwood to work on on Bellevue Farm Park, which is right actually in the heart of our community. It's actually literally the center of the community. We fan around this park, and many people in our community have a deep connection to this land. They've worked it when it was a farm, and now we have developed a vision for this park, which is to really follow through on the intentions of Harold Donnelly, who donated this land to the county upon his death, which is that it be a wildlife and nature preserve. Now, we're a small organization. We know we can't do this ourselves. So we've actively, been in relationship and strengthened a relationship with Wildwood through Joe Vuchnich and Gary Cruz, which we have deeply appreciated. We've also worked with the MDC. And to date, we have, between Wildwood and us, we have received a significant amount of grants from the MDC. $25,000. We received $25,000 grant for clearing invasives from 20 acres on the east side of the park. Then we received another $6,000 to do tree stand improvement on that same 20 acres. Wildwood has, as you know, gotten a $25,000 grant to do prairie restoration on the meadow. So we have continued to work with the MDC to secure additional resources for clearing invasives from the most infested areas, which is mostly in the lower areas where the honeysuckle and the cedars have really, really crowded everything else out. Our goal is to get rid of the invasives so that basically the land can restore itself. We ourselves are holding several work parties. We are working in the less infested areas. We first cleared all of the honeysuckle from around the buildings in the main area. There, we also installed a native garden this year, which mirrors the plants that will be in the prairie restoration, which Wildwood is responsible for. So we're showcasing what's already happening, what's going to be happening in that prairie. And we will be using that as an educational tool once the park opens. So there will be an explanation and demonstrations and things at that, and hopefully signage at that garden, which also surrounds the memorial stone to Harold Donnelly. Most of our work personally is about doing what we can do by hand. So the higher elevations, the honeysuckle is much thinner. Most of it can be pulled up. What can't be pulled can be cut with pruning shears or simple equipment, and stump cut sprayed is mostly what we're doing. We also are we have just approached the MDC about the possibility of working with them to work with Missouri Stream Clean, with the Missouri Stream Team, to work on the spring. We have there's a beautiful spring. Unfortunately, it's filled with trash. So our next goal is to clear this spring so that it can also be restored to a natural state. So these are just some of the things that we're working on, and we are a small but mighty but devoted group of people. We're also holding a fundraiser on October 23rd and would love to be able to see you, and would be very happy at any time to offer a tour of the property. So that's just a snippet of what we've been up to.
Thank you, Krista.
Thank you.
And I can attest, the group is small, but they have been mighty, and there's been a lot of changes down on the property. And I would encourage any of you to take advantage of the invitation. If not, by the Friends of Bellevue, we as the city of Wildwood would be glad to take you down there and give you a tour as well.
Where is the property located?
The property is located immediately north of Sherman Beach Park. So there's Sherman Beach Park, then there's St. Paul, there's the railway, and we're just north of the railway.
Oh, nice.
It's a 100-acre piece of property. There's some meadowlands. Most of it is woodlands and forest.
Thank
And
you.
Madam Co-Chair, I would say it's at the end of St. Paul Road at Hunt Street. If you were to go on Google Maps, that might be the best indicator.
Did you say you're going to open the park? Is there going to be, do you have a target date or whatever to, like, as you said, open the park?
Well, we are working in partnership with Wildwood. It's your responsibility to open the park. And so we will be doing anything we can to support that opening, but there's infrastructure, as you know, that needs to be put in place. And that is beyond our capability, but we are willing to do our part is the ecological restoration of the park.
And with the permission of the co-chairs, Ms. Jelling, I think realistically, we're in basically the shadow of 2021. We're doing our budgeting for year 2022, and we do have some additional funds in the budget for Bellevue Farms, principally design and engineering funds so that we can develop an engineered plan, bid the plan, and hopefully be successful in the bidding process. So I'm thinking 2023 is the golden year for putting in a small parking lot, some limited facilities, and then connecting the parking lot to the trail system that the Friends of Bellevue have been working on most recently. Thank you.
Thank you.
So a question there, is this also the same property they was considering the bike trails? I guess that was the gravity, the pump trails or the gravity fed that was being considered, and I don't remember what the state of that was. Is that the same property we're talking about? Maybe Joe knows.
Krista knows as much as I, but yes, Gateway Off-Road Cyclists had offered to do some improvements in Bellevue Farms. Certainly the residents of the Sherman area questioned that. And ultimately we were hopefully able to find a wonderful compromise for both. Gateway Off-Road Cyclists is doing improvements at Bluff View Park off of Old State Road, and the Friends of Bellevue are able to help us restore the 100 acres that is Bellevue Farms at the end of St. Paul Road. So both organizations have been able to partner with the city in St. Louis County and create facilities I think will be unique to the Merrimack River Valley. And I'm talking more than Krista, I'm sorry.
That's okay. And one of the things that we're especially hopeful for is that the MDC has identified this as a priority property. They just see this as quite a treasure. It's very unique in that it has been relatively untouched. It's been untouched for over 20 years. And it also has, it's clearly identified that this is to be a wildlife and nature preserve. And if we are successful in restoring this property, both removing invasives and reintroducing natural species, this would be a one-of-a-kind park in the county. There isn't really the county and mostly has a recreational focus to their parks, and this would be an ecological restoration, environmental focus. And I think that's something very special that we would be creating together.
Krista, with your permission, along with the co-chairs, St. Louis County, although it owns the property and leases it to the city of Wildwood, their director, Tom Odd, has committed that once we do open the park, they are willing to do programming down there, bird watching, hay rides in the fall, things along those lines that would be consistent, I believe, with the efforts of Friends of Bellevue.
Absolutely.
So there's an opportunity out there. And so there is, to me, some urgency because it is 100 acres and would be a nice addition to the greenway along the Merrimack River. I promise that's it. I'm picking a lot and throwing the key away.
Well, we're really hopeful about the work that we can do. If we can secure a few additional grants to do the work in the most infested, difficult areas, that would take, frankly, years for a volunteer crowd to do. We can, by moving from the higher elevations down, actually prevent this park from being fully invaded and prevent a lot more invasive work that would have to be done if we waited longer. So we're quite hopeful, and we're anticipating a good winter. We've planned a co-work party with Open Space Council St. Louis. The Master Naturalists are going to be holding several work parties this year. We're going to be having our own work parties. We're quite excited about this year. Everything slowed down with COVID, by the way. So last year we didn't clear as much as we hoped to, but I think we're in a different position now. So we're excited to get back at it.
So is your whole goal to get the park essentially opened and to get it to where it is,
Mhm.
you know, a wildlife nature preserve? And then at that point, is your mission done at that point, once it's open, or you guys will continue to be a
Right.
part of it?
We would hope to be continued because there will be maintenance required to keep it invasive free. It doesn't just stay that way, as you know. It will need to, be maintained and loved by us for quite a long time.
And so you guys just get grants and do fundraisers in the hopes of getting the resources needed to do all the things that you need to do to get rid of the invasive stuff.
We do that, and we've put in a lot of sweat equity ourselves. We do a lot of work parties ourselves.
Gotcha.
In the last year, in the combination of sweat equity and grants and grant writing and fundraising and everything, we've put in almost 800 hours of volunteer time this year alone.
And to the co-chairs and task force members, and I don't think I'm speaking out of turn for Krista, there are volunteer opportunities with the organization if anyone should choose. And
Yeah.
maybe one of the requests of the Friends of Bellevue is to send up a schedule of their work events so that we can attach it to our organizational chart. Thank you.
One of our organizational priorities at this time is building more capacity for us to do this work. So thank you.
And when it comes to volunteers, are you just taking anyone that's willing to help, or do they need to have some sort of knowledge in this field, or can you guys kind of direct them to do?
We can direct them. Anyone over 18 is welcome to come. And I mean, pulling shoots is pretty simple. No, definitely. Well, I really appreciate all your questions, and I very much appreciate being invited to this meeting. Thank you so much. And thank you for your support of us. It means a whole lot.
Thank you for being here.
Krista, thank you. And if there are no other questions from the task force members, we can promote Mr. Sontag, who represents the Lions Club. Thanks again, Krista.
Hi, Michelle.
And to the co-chairs and to the task force members, just to advise, as I did with Krista and the Friends of Bellevue, Mr. Marshall is an integral part of the Lions Club here in the Wildwood area. I'm sure he can be a great resource too, as in assisting Mr. Sontag.
Thank you. Thank you for the introduction, Joe. I'm Larry Sontag. I'm president of the Wildwood Area Lions Club. And I'll start with a couple. And by the way, thank you all for inviting us to this meeting. It's very worthwhile. We're always there to help, and I'm glad you all are looking at helping more people. And thanks again to the City of Wildwood as well. I'm going to do a couple things. I'm going to go a little bit through about Lions, which includes Lions International, Lions Club International, LCI, a little bit about Wildwood Area Lions, and then I'm also going to open it up for questions, very similar to what I just heard before. A little bit about LCI, which is the larger group of, it's actually a worldwide organization. We're in 200 countries as Lions. We have about 44,000 clubs with about 1.4 million members. And actually, what's kind of ironic, it started in 1917, so it's over 100 years old, and grew quite rapidly here in the United States. But now it has grown overseas, and actually we're kind of losing members in the United States. So membership is something we definitely focus on, and hopefully that will be something we can do here today as well. Couple things. I just mentioned we were founded in 1917, actually in the Midwest in Chicago. Helen Keller came to one of our conventions in 1925, and she wished to have the Lions be the Knights of Darkness. And so since then, we have focused on eye care and the visually impaired. And our motto has been since then as well, we serve. And so I'm sure you see us around. Some of the things that we do here as Lions, if you can see this, I don't know if you can see the little, you may have seen these in Clarkson Eye Care or some of the other places, or Schnucks or Deerbirds, but these are eyeglass collection boxes. So one of the things we do is when your recycled eyeglasses are dropped in this box, we take them over to Central America or to Mexico and actually give those to people that are visually impaired. Think of it as someone that hasn't seen for 30 years, not clearly, and they put on a pair of used eyeglasses and they can see. It's amazing. A little bit more about Wildwood Area Lions. We've done two things that you may have seen in the West News recently, actually in the last 6 months to a year. We've actually donated a scholarship to the community college right here in Wildwood. Miss Mark was the recipient. And we've also donated 10 iPads to 2 different care facilities here in the Wildwood area. And that was during COVID when the lockdown was there and a number of the people obviously couldn't get out and they needed to have communications. So we did do that and it did make the West End news. So we're proud of those couple things. We do a lot of community service hours here locally. In fact, since our year started, which is from July 1st to June 30th, we've done over 550 hours worth of service time here in the community. We do screening, again, for kids. We're very big on the kids site. We actually screen children under the age of 6 for potential referral to eye doctors for additional screening that might involve problems with their eyes. Actually, we were at Wildwood Days. We actually screened about 47 children and referred about 15% for additional referrals. So those are some of the things. We've also donated, Circle of Concern is another. So we're not just about eye care, obviously from the scholarship and from Circle of Concern. One of the things that we can do, because I want to get down to what can the city do to help us and we can be a partner, is the LCI, again, Lions Club International, offers grants. And some of the grant money can be split. We can't get 100%. Well, let's say it's 50-50 partnership, and we could take, say, Kids for Cancer, and they want to get some type of volunteer organization or something involved to promote one of their projects or whatever it might be. We could actually apply for a grant through LCI, Lions Club International, and if they approved it, then there could be some available money for that. So those are some things that we can do, but we're always looking at any ways we can serve the community. Again, our motto is we serve, and whatever we can do to just better the community and those in need. Those are a few things that I had on. I wanted to definitely open it up. By the way, the collection boxes that I just mentioned, we collect about 3,500 pairs of glasses a year. So it's a very worthwhile community project here in Wildwood. So with that, I'll open it up to any type of questions you might have. And again, we primarily serve Wildwood and the cities adjacent to Wildwood.
So I did have a question about the
Sure.
eyeglass collection. So once you take those in, do you leave the same prescription in it and then hopefully be able to find someone who needs that same prescription, or is there like work that's done on those to
They're typically, so you drop a pair of used eyeglasses. We put those in a category of sunglasses or non-sunglasses and make sure they're in good enough repair that they can be recycled. Some of them obviously are missing glasses or cracked, or then those are categorized. They're actually looked at, and the prescription of each of those lenses is actually categorized. So it's labeled. And keep in mind, we just this little area here, the Wildwood area, collected 3,500. So multiply that by literally, 44,000 other clubs, or 43,100 or whatever it would be. And those are all going to different areas for recycling. So the chances of, once that the person that's going to receive the glasses is reviewed and looked at by a doctor and screened, they're going to get a prescription, and then we're going to look for the glasses. So what's so interesting about you bringing that up, and imagine that you've again, the 20 years not seeing, you get a pair of glasses and they look like Elton John glasses, is the ones that fit yours. But there's another pair that's over there that is totally a wild, it came out of the 1970s. They get a chance to decide whether they want the Elton Johns or the 1970s. So it's kind of interesting to see someone's face that sees for the first time, and then they actually have a choice of the glasses they pick that we threw away. Isn't that amazing? But good question, very good question. Thank you.
So, question: Do you what organizations do you partner with, or do you use Lions Club itself around the world for donations overseas and other areas?
Yeah, primarily, well, the partnership would be like in Wildwood, would be one of the vision companies here. One of the Eyeglass doctors would be Schnucks or Deerbergs. So that's the partnering, but that's how the eyeglasses are collected, is through service centers where they collect them. But then once the eyeglasses are actually received, then they're going to go through pretty much all of the Lion, worked or assisted with the Lions' help to get those distributed to those in need. But again, another great question.
So you have then basically your locations in all the many countries around the world, for example, or in which you distribute it to those based on the need, and they have basically local doctors there. So, okay.
Yep, and I'm not familiar enough to know that how the overseas does it, but we're set up that primarily in this area, those glasses are going to Central America and Mexico, only probably because we're in the North America continent. So,
Joe, I could add a little bit more. From Brian, as we collect those just in the Wildwood area, then we move those up to the district, which are like 38 other clubs. And on an annual basis, about 80 to 90,000 pair. We take those over to Columbia, as well as the other Lions clubs in Missouri bring those to Columbia. They actually have a processing, it's kind of like a big commercial dishwasher that sanitizes the glasses. Then they're all graded and put in a computer that puts the prescriptions on them, put tags on them, put them in plastic bags, and they rack those up. And then, so for an example, the Missouri Eye Mission or the Lions Club, they may do 3 trips a year, maybe 1 to Panama and 2 into Mexico. But the glasses that we accumulate, then we'll give those. We work hand in hand with a group in California, another group of Lions, and then they in turn. So, but church groups or any type of other eye care services that need glasses, they're available for them from the Lions Club. So we only can do 3 missions a year, usually out of Missouri, along with California. And in that case, there'll be 6 or 8 Lions who will be technicians to help, and a couple eye doctors and some translators that will go as a team to these different areas. And they will hand out between 4,000 and 6,000 pairs of glasses in 3 days.
Wow. Yeah, I'm myself have done missions to, we do clean water missions to Panama. And so I'm familiar with, kind of on the receiving end of that, but I'm trying to connect the dots and also just understanding where the partnership opportunities are at. So thanks.
I have a question. So are you guys just a bunch of folks that have a passion for people being able to see, or like where'd the Lions Club thing come from? Where'd the name come from? And is there any other activities that you guys do outside of vision help?
Yeah.
Scholarship and stuff.
Yeah, great question. Most of us just have a passion to serve others, but it's kind of interesting when it comes time to give the money that we make through service organization or through our service fundraising. When we have everybody, each person seems to have a different place that they would like to see the money go. But eye care seems to be almost all of our focus to some extent. Just like I mentioned, circle of concern. But yes, I'd say the driving force is we want to serve and help other people.
So you're kind of like a service club, but the focus is drawn in towards vision.
That's correct. You're exactly right on.
So Dan, part of the commitment is the Lions Club themselves have some major area focuses like environmental. So, we were always excited to be able to help the city with the recycling events, because those are things that our service hours would tie into. Childhood cancer, we as a group, as a district, will do care bags and take them down to Children's Hospital, 200 or 300 of those a year. the eye care part that Larry talked about, we also then do, I mentioned diabetic, environmental, and Larry, I know I have them on the list there.
Vision, hunger, environmental
hunger is a big
diabetes, and
issue.
childhood cancer are some of the others.
So from an overall standpoint, all of those major focuses are parts that the Lions Club International, which is worldwide, there are certain in other countries where they're building eye hospitals, but they're also feeding the hungry. So they look at those focus groups, and then from the LCI Foundation, which generates about $100 million a year, that's where the grants come from. So I know this last year, I think it's close to $1.8 million were given to COVID focused support worldwide in order to do that. So it's a worldwide organization, but it's really built on the local markets and what you need in a local area. So some of the things that Larry shared with you were things that are needed here, but then we support Leader Dog for the Blind and other ones that are a few $100 go together to help, sponsor a $45,000 Leader Dog for somebody. So it's kind of built from the ground up, from the community up.
And what do you need to do if you wanted to join the Lions Club? I mean, can anybody come and serve alongside you guys, or what's the process there?
Absolutely. On service projects and just in joining the club, we actually meet in person on the fourth Tuesday of the month and kind of have a meet and greet, and usually have a program about one of the different things that we sponsor. And then other than that, it's service projects and getting people together to work on those particular things and helping the other clubs. One quick thing I wanted to mention is, and Karen would realize this a little bit more, is eye care for high school students and students. So the Lions Club works with the school nurse program through Rockwood, that if the nurses identify a child in school who needs eye support, they will then send that referral back, and the Lions Club then will try to coordinate getting them into an eye doctor. They'll do the screening for it and the glasses for them. And then the Lions Club will pay, because usually the financial support's not there is the reason that the kid doesn't have the glasses. So we kind of coordinate then with the Chesterfield Club or ourselves, depending where in Rockwood they need the glasses, where the student is, we default back to the different local clubs. And then from a district standpoint, we have another larger organization that has money. So the idea is that all of the services we're providing are for those people that need those services. And we try to do it as quickly as possible to help those folks out.
I'll just have to say, Ed, we need to talk, because we could send them to the iThrive and it wouldn't cost the Lions Club anything, because we have a doctor, we pay, and they have glasses on board we can make and get them on the kids. So we need to talk, Larry and Ed, about how we just had our fundraiser, and I bid on a night where I have our mobile van can come to an area and do the eye care for that day for everyone. So I'm doing it at Our Lady of Guadalupe up in North County. It's where my money's going this time, but I should need to talk to you guys about how we work with school nurses and get them eye care. So
Please, yeah, that's already productive. Hey, this has already been productive. Awesome. That's awesome. Any more questions?
To the co-chairs, we're a little behind, so I'm just reminding you of our next presenter.
Thank you so much for informing us and presenting today.
No, thank you. I appreciate it. Have a good evening. Bye-bye.
Ms. Codwell and Mr. Flasher will promote Ms. Harper, who's the Executive Director of the Open Space Council of the St. Louis region.
Hi, thanks, Joe. Thanks for having me. Yes, so I'm Bonnie Harper, the Executive Director for the Open Space Council. Shout out to Morrow, longtime high school friend. I've also worked with Joe quite a bit through the work of the Open Space Council and the projects that we've done in the city of Wildwood. But just for your information about who the Open Space Council is, so we are a 501c3 environmental nonprofit. We were founded in 1965. And so our mission is to conserve and sustain land and water resources throughout the St. Louis region. And our sort of jurisdiction that we operate in is a 100-mile radius from the city of St. Louis. So we kind of have 3 different program areas. And so I'll kind of go through a little bit about each of those program areas and then some of the specific work that we've been doing in Wildwood. So we started out as a land trust organization. So what that means is we would fundraise with the specific purpose to purchase land to keep it as open space and protect its conservation values and to stop it from being developed. And so we've had quite a role throughout, well, since 1965 in, like I said, purchasing private land and keeping it as public open space. So we helped create Beech Tree County Park in South St. Louis County, Castlewood State Park in Baldwin, Forest 44 Conservation Area out in West St. Louis County. We've also created little parks in Sunset Hills and Webster Groves. And then in 1999, we were the ones that created Bellevue Farm Park for Friends of Bellevue Farm. So that's where that land came from, was through the Open Space Council. So there's also been other projects we've been involved in. Just most recently in 2020, we purchased an addition to the Young Conservation Area, which is just across the river from Wildwood. And then we also helped this past summer, we purchased a 156-acre addition to Greensfelder County Park. So, so we also hold conservation easements. So if a landowner is interested in protecting the conservation values on their land indefinitely, they can put a conservation easement on their property, and we hold that conservation easement, and it stays with the land no matter who it changes hands to or is sold to. That conservation easement stays on that property, and we're responsible for monitoring that easement and sort of not prosecuting, but taking legal action if any infringements go against the conditions of that easement. So I guess what I'm saying to you about all this work is that, you know, when it comes to land conservation, we welcome any inquiries that people have. We welcome land donations from landowners who are interested in keeping their land as open space. And we usually will try to find a public landowner to donate that land to. So whether it be the city of Wildwood, the Department of Conservation, St. Louis County Parks, Missouri State Parks, etc. We usually work in kind of brokering that kind of deal. And then we also, you know, can help purchase land. And we also have several funding partners that we work with when it comes to purchasing private land. If there's a real desire from the community to keep that as open space and to keep it from turning into a subdivision or commercial development or something like that. So that's kind of one program area that we kind of started out with in 1965. In 1967, we started organizing Operation Clean Stream, which is we organize around between 1,000 and 2,000 volunteers to clean up the Merrimack River. Well, I should say the Merrimack River watershed. And so that's all the streams that feed the Merrimack River and the Merrimack River itself. And so since 1967, we've been organizing Operation Clean Stream the 4th weekend of August. We've been doing that. We just held our 54th annual Clean Stream this past August. We have several cleanup sites within Wildwood. We clean up at along the Al Foster Trail at Sherman Beach Park. We've done cleanups at Cox Creek. And we also organize canoe-based cleanups along the entire stretch of the Merrimack River. So we have also float-based cleanup that goes from like Route 66 State Park downstream through Wildwood they take out at Sherman Beach Park, and then another group goes in at Sherman Beach Park and floats on down the river. So we organize about 70 of those floats down the Merrimack River and also the Huza, Cotaway, Big River, and Burbus rivers as well. And so each year we remove about 2,000 tires from the river and thousands of pounds of trash and litter. So we are always looking to recruit volunteers to help join that effort. We work with a team of 60 trip leaders, and those trip leaders lead groups of between 10 to 20 people down the river. Or they might lead a group of people during a creek cleanup or a park cleanup. At our parklands that kind of border the river. So that's kind of our second program area. And then our third program area is our Operation Wildlands program. And that's where we coordinate volunteers to do restoration work within our public lands. So we will recruit volunteers to do invasive species removal, like honeysuckle removal, tree planting, stream bank stabilization, those kinds of projects, you know, in our parks around the region. So we've been working along the L. Foster Trail for a number of years doing honeysuckle removal. You'll notice that Krista earlier said that we're helping them to organize volunteer events at Bellevue Farm Park to do honeysuckle removal. I think I'm trying to think of other locations we worked in Wildwood. I mean, we work throughout the whole region. Right now, we're especially active in Creve Coeur Park, Lower Merrimack Park, and St. Vincent Park, though those aren't in Wildwood. But essentially, if a municipality or, you know, want some work done in, you know, in their parks, they can reach out to us and we can try to organize a volunteer event for that. And so that's what we've been doing along the Al Foster Trail. And I think we might move into more into Castlewood State Park as well. But we also organize a River to Fair Trash Bash, but I know that's not in Wildwood, so I don't know if you want to talk anything about that, but that's another river cleanup event that starts on Saturday of this week, which is a cleanup with River to Fair. And we also do the Missouri River cleanup too in North St. Louis County. So we have a staff of four staff members and a board of directors of 27. So yeah, I just kind of threw that all out there. So happy to take any questions or anything like that.
And with the permission of the co-chairs and task force members, I'd like to extend my thanks to Ms. Harper. The bush honeysuckle removal along the Al Foster Trail has been amazing and has opened up views that no one had seen for many, many years. So thanks for all you do.
Sure thing.
Hi, Bonnie. It's good to see you. Was curious about the volunteers, what you guys are looking for. Is there an age range? Is there specific training?
Well, so if a volunteer wants to be a trip leader, then we do have training for trip leaders. So ahead of our cleanup events, we'll have a series of, well, they were in-person meetings, but now virtual to kind of go through what it means to be a trip leader and the safety training for that kind of thing. Because obviously when you're leading a group of people down a river, there's, you know, there's some things that we need to make sure you're doing right. Yeah, so there is some training to be a trip leader, but to just join a cleanup effort, you know, to be a volunteer under a trip leader, or to do one of our invasive species removal events or something like that, there's no training needed. We when we organize an event, we kind of gauge the level of experience the volunteers have. And so the volunteers that have already done this work, you know, we kind of send them off, and then the volunteers that need a bit more, you know, training, so to speak, or orientation, you know, we work with them to get them feeling comfortable with what they're doing. So we just kind of meet people where they're at. And most of our events are for, you know, any kids, families, any age. If not, we'll definitely specify that for our event. Some of our honeysuckle work does involve using pesticide or really sharp tools like Pulaski axes and hose. So if our event, if a certain event, you know, has us using those tools, we kind of look at the location to decide what kind of tool is best for a certain area. If we're working close to water, for example, we won't use pesticide. Or if we're working on a steep hillside, we probably won't use the axes and hose because we actually want to leave some of the plant in the ground to prevent erosion. So yeah, it really depends on kind of where we're working and what we're doing. But we always specify, you know, the certain ages and stuff. So for example, on November 10, we're doing a honeysuckle hack with the middle school students. So, and then for Operation Clean Stream, we get a ton of participation from Boy Scouts and Girl Scouts. It's a really popular event for them.
Awesome, thank you.
Sure.
So quick question, so do you work with the St. Louis, like Great River Greenway? He's mentioned the Pear, for example, Park or others. So how does that partnership work, or how do you work with them or not?
Yeah, so Great Rivers Greenway is one of our biggest partners. So because many of our sort of invasive species removal sites or cleanup sites are along the Greenway system. And so they help provide trees and plants and tools, like extra tools and supplies that we might need for an event. They're really good about helping supply those things free of charge. And they'll also help spread the word about our volunteer events to make sure we're getting the volunteers that we need, or the quantity, I should say. So they'll share our events on social media and in their newsletters and things like that. So yeah, we work closely. I pretty much have a meeting with GRG probably at least twice a month about different things.
Perfect. Okay. That made sense. I was just trying to understand the connection. Thank you.
Thank you so much for speaking to us.
Yeah. Well, I hope to see you guys out. All of our volunteer events are, they're on our website. That's how people can, and we do request that we try to get volunteers to register for our events ahead of time, so we know how many people to expect, and also to get the volunteers to sign a waiver. All of our volunteers need to sign a waiver to participate in our events. However, if people walk up to our event, it's fine. We've got paper waivers to sign on site and things like that. But it's just a better way for us to communicate with volunteers about what they need to bring and what to expect on the day. If they register ahead of time, it just makes that process a bit easier. So, yeah.
Thank you.
Again, Ms.
Thank
Harper,
you for the
thanks so
opportunity.
much. To the co-chairs and to the task force members, Mr. Peters is ready to come become a panelist if you have no further questions for Ms. Harper.
Sounds good. Thank you.
And to the co-chairs and task force members, Tim Peters is the director of the Wildwood Family YMCA that has been in the city for over 20 years and does a wonderful job creating opportunities for all our residents. Mr. Peters.
Thank you, Mr. Vunich. It's funny that you say 20 years. It'll be our 20th birthday on December 1st. So we are quickly approaching that and planning that. But thank you for the opportunity to speak in front of you guys tonight. Just kind of want to talk a little bit about the YMCA. One of the things that myself and my board of advisors are really trying to get out to the public is that our big push is we're more than a gym and swim. It's obvious, a lot of people come there to exercise for mind, body, and spirit. But we're really trying to get the word out there that we're much more than, as we like to call it, gym and swim. Obviously, the focus is exercising, safety around water for our youth. But the big thing that I think separates us from a lot of the other good establishments around the Wildwood community is, we never turn anyone away for their inability to pay. We are a place that's very inclusive. We want, it's for all. So just a couple of things that I just want to kind of point out a little bit. One of the things that is mentioned is volunteering. We're always looking for volunteers, especially in projects around the grounds of the Y in terms of, keeping it green, trimming trees, that kind of stuff, picking up trash that happens to blow around from just different parts of the town into the property, as well as our community garden. I think a lot of people don't realize that we have 80 plots out there. We just finished phase 1 and 1B is we're liking to call it of our sensory therapy garden. We've teamed up with several local businesses to complete that. It's ADA accessible, working with a couple Boy Scouts as well to finish a couple projects out there. One of the things with the sensory therapy garden, it's really focused on folks with PTSD, as well as our elderly that might be in a assisted living center and they're just kind of down. But what we found out is when we've gone to them, we'll take these plants that are all edible, by the way, and by the touch, the smell, the feel, it just brightens their day, and they remember things from 50 years ago that they just won't tell their current caretaker or whatnot. So the goal now is looking to fundraise to eventually get a outdoor classroom in place so we can bring programming to the Y with all there. We just had our second farm to table. It was very successful, where all the food that we served for our event was harvested from our garden, except for the meat. And we mentioned volunteering. So if you're ever interested in volunteering, please let me know. It's anywhere from working on the grounds, working in the garden, and things like that. It's just a little process we have to do with background checks due to the amount of kids around the Y. We do try to ensure a lot of safety. Finally, one of the things that we're always looking at a 3 to 5 year plan inside the Wildwood YMCA and the Gateway Region YMCA as a whole. And one of those things is looking at pickleball courts. Me and my team, we've kind of identified a spot for outdoor pickleball courts. And this is in the very, very infant of stages. I haven't even taken it to my boss, who has to, take it up the line and all that. But, pickleball is the fastest growing sport in the country. There's not a whole lot of options around Wildwood. Having talked with some of the members of the staff there at Wildwood, I hear from residents that, a pickleball court is wanted in parks. So it would be really cool to see if the Y and the city of Wildwood could partner up, looking at, building some outdoor pickleball courts that would be on the property of the Y, open for all, not just YMCA people. It would be open for the entire community. That's pretty much what I wanted to share. I know you guys are a little bit behind schedule, so I don't want to keep you too long, and then open to any questions you guys might have.
Well, Tim, while the task force members think of some questions or comments, again, just like with the others, Mr. Peters has been a great addition at the facility. He engages well with the city, and I just think the opportunities out there for our residents are unlimited. So thanks for all you do.
You're welcome. I appreciate you saying that.
Mr. Peters, how many of your members are challenged with paying for membership?
So
in terms of percentage?
Yep. I don't have the exact number off my head. I can tell you, Joe, in 2020, it's hard to say, since we were closed for 3.5 months and with all the restrictions, to me, 2020, when I look at numbers, I kind of ignore that. So I'm kind of going back to 2019 and comparing it to what we're seeing right now. And we're up by about 10% of what we were doing in 2019. So roughly in just membership alone, we're doing assistance of about $20,000 a year, but then what you really see is the programming side and what we're doing to support that. So roughly around $100,000 is what we're putting back into assistance and into helping programs throughout the year. But it's gone up since COVID has affected so many. So we're starting to see that number. It went up dramatically right away. Now it's kind of leveled off a little bit, but definitely the need is out there.
Thank you.
You're welcome. I do want to mention real quick, we did partner with the Eureka Lions Club. They gave us a $4,500 grant that focused around kids and safety around water. So we were able to help 132, give or take a few kids, in that 130s, kids that would never, ever come to the Y for swim lessons. We were able to teach them safety around water. Drowning is one of the leading causes in death amongst our youth. So to be able to go out and reach over 130 kids, thanks to a great partnership we have with the Eureka Lions Club, it's awesome. And to see those kids that we would normally never, ever see come to the Y, it's really cool to see us, having a positive impact on their life and teaching them some life-saving skills as well.
Again, for the task force members, are there any other questions or comments for Mr. Peters?
Just thank you for all you do. I grew up a lot in the Y, so swim lessons all the time and spend a lot of time there. So thank you.
You're welcome. I have a great staff. They get a lot of the credits. They make my job pretty easy going out and talking to city officials and different civic organizations, but I will be sure to pass along, Mr. Larson. Thank you.
Thank you so much for being here and speaking to us.
You're welcome.
Thank you, Mr. Peters. Have a good rest of the evening.
Off to practice. All right, see you guys. Thank you.
To the co-chairs and to the task force members, the last presentation tonight is a video that was provided. And with your patience, I believe Kristen and Mr. Newberry, I should say Travis and Kristen, are going to share a screen and we'll view the video. Thank you.
Hi, I'm David Israel, lead pastor at Living Word Church. As a church, we have all the programs and ministries you'd expect. There are ministries in which we are deeply involved and blessed to participate in as well. Our early childhood center preschool is second to none. The fact that we've rarely done any advertising speaks to the word of mouth publicity that drives our enrollment. Annually, Living Word partners with mission organizations in our community, region, and worldwide. The annual Christmas Eve Miracle Offering funds the work that we do with organizations such as Circle of Concern, a service agency that supports families in the Rockwood, Parkway, and Valley Park school districts. Haven House, an agency that functions much like Ronald McDonald House, but provides housing and care for families with people of all ages who are visiting St. Louis from all over the world and are availing themselves to the excellent medical community in St. Louis. Room at the Inn is a mission to move individuals and families from homelessness to self-sufficiency. At Merrimack Elementary in the St. Louis Public School District, we provide a reading specialist as well as reading volunteers with the goal of bringing all students up to grade level reading proficiency. Finally, over the last 10 years, Living Word has invested $2 million in our global mission in Ghana, Africa, where we have drilled wells for fresh water as well as building schools and churches in the northern rural region. In each and every one of these ministries, we invite the Wildwood community to participate. There are no restrictions to church membership or worship attendance. Finally, worship at Living Word is made ever more inviting through the high quality of our music ministry. Whether it is the tradition of choirs and ensembles singing the hymns of old, or the most contemporary of Christian music like you might hear on the radio, Living Word's music ministry will invite you into the spiritual presence of God as you worship in person or online. For more information about Living Word and our ministries, please check out our website at livingwordumc.org or contact me personally. I'd be glad to help.
To the co-chairs and task force members, I believe that's all of the presentations that were scheduled for tonight. Certainly, if you're not familiar with Living Word, I'll just give a brief direction. They're at the southwest corner of Pond Road, Route 100.
So he was more or less just kind of identifying the charities that they support. That the gist of what everybody else got from that.
I believe that was the extent of the video that was provided. And certainly they also submitted, I believe, a response to our questionnaire. And so if you want more additional information, it should be available on the questionnaire. Thank you.
All right, should we move forward with our vote on the minutes? Do we have the right number of people?
We do. We have 9. So thanks for remembering, Ms. Caldwell. I forgot already.
All right, excellent. So motion to approve the minutes that were sent out from the August 11th meeting.
So moved. Second.
Oh, great. Thank you. All those in favor?
Aye.
All right, minutes approved.
Any opposed?
Thank you.
Okay.
Thank you all for approving the minutes. We appreciate it.
All right, I'm just moving down our agenda here. So it looks like talking about our next meeting. I think the last time that we all met and the co-chair and I met was we were thinking that next meeting would be our last kind of quarterly or every other month, however often we're meeting now, meeting with the goal of creating that final draft of our spreadsheet, including the information that we received tonight. And then voting on that, having a final consensus, and then also talking about how we're going to host this. I know there had been some discussion back and forth. That would be our goal of the next meeting. And anything else that needed to be considered. I guess I'm wondering if there's anything that anybody thinks we should add to that agenda.
And to the task force members, the reason the item is on tonight's agenda is potentially this could be the last meeting of the task force with the adoption of the spreadsheet and then discussion and decision on who might host the spreadsheet. We've talked about that briefly in the past, and there's been different suggestions. And so before we close and do not regularly meet again as the task force, we want to make sure we get it right for all of you. So thank you.
Joe, did you ever get any clarification in regards to the ability to potentially host this or not?
Mr. Newberry, our city administrator, Steve Cross, and I had a discussion about it today. And certainly I'll relay the details of that to the co-chairs before our November meeting, as well as to the task force at that meeting. Thank you.
Thanks.
Mr. Marshall.
Just a question. Out of all of the people that were on the list, and we sent the letter and the survey input sheets to them, what percent did we get back? What percent didn't we get back? Is there just a tally, a guideline?
Well, Mr. Marshall, we identified on the spreadsheet 58 different organizations, and all of those came from you, and it was a broad range. And certainly you all did a wonderful job of identifying those organizations. I want to say we received, notwithstanding the presentations tonight, I think it was 14 or 15, Kristen. So maybe a quarter, 25%. I think she's counting them up now.
You know, I'm thinking it was 20.
20. Okay.
Some said no, some said yes, and some said maybe on meeting. I believe we got about 20 responses.
So about a third.
And some of those responses wanted to meet during the business hours and stuff, which we didn't think worked the best for our current group here because a lot of y'all are working.
Right.
Thank you.
I personally thought tonight was great. Like hearing from these organizations, those are things that, I mean, I guess this ended up being the whole goal of this task force. Maybe it wasn't originally, but was kind of identifying some of the not-for-profits in our area and learning what they're all about and kind of getting that word out to the community. And I'm excited to get the word out to the community now because I think there's some really neat things going on in our backyard that a lot of people, myself included, did not even realize were there. And I learned a lot tonight. I thought tonight was great.
Agreed.
I agree with that. And I'm also excited about all the volunteer opportunities. I think that's a question we continue to get. So I'm excited about that.
To the co-chairs, the only remaining item is to settle on a date for our November meeting. And in the past, I believe we've been meeting on the second Tuesday of the month. I don't know if that's a workable date for the task force. Certainly, if you all don't want to decide tonight, we can send that out via email tomorrow to the entire group and poll them to see if that's a workable date. I
Does
believe
the
it's,
city have anything else going on the second Tuesday? Sorry. to interrupt.
traditionally, it has been an open date for just till recently, over the past 2 years, it was the town center update team and the update of the town center plan. I think that's why it's worked well for this group over the more recent period. But certainly, it's your task force. Tell us what works best for you. Just remember, near the end of the month, there's some kind of holiday coming up.
My vote, if we think time-wise we can get everything compiled, I mean, that's gonna fall, I guess, a lot on city staff. But if we think we can get everything kind of more or less compiled, I think aiming for the second Tuesday, if that's what we've traditionally done, would be the best plan of attack. Especially if there's nothing else citywide going on, where hopefully Ms. Dodwell and Ottenberg and myself are all free schedule-wise in that aspect.
Mr. Flasher, Mr. Newberry has the city calendar handy, I believe. Could you check it right now, just to make sure?
Yes, it looks like on November the 9th, which is the second Tuesday, the only item on the calendar is the tentative date for the community outreach task force. So
I'll make the motion if you want a motion.
I'll second that.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed to that date? I think we got our date.
Well, thank you all, and we'll send out an email tomorrow confirming it for the rest of the task force members. And we do appreciate your participation tonight. We can't do it without you, so thanks again.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Good night.
Thank you.
Do we have a motion to adjourn?
So moved.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed?
Good night.